talking to Gwen Laster. And Gwen, first thing is, where do you live? In Cold Spring or outside Cold Spring?
No, I'm right here in the village.
In the village?
Mm-hmm.
And where did you grow up?
Detroit.
In Detroit, Michigan. I was your neighbor. I grew up in Windsor, Ontario.
Wow.
So we didn't know that.
True neighbors.
In that area.
We're serious neighbors, yeah.
So how long have you been in Cold Spring?
It will be 7 years in July.
And the big question is, why Cold Spring and not Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, or somewhere else?
Well, my husband and I were looking for a place before we got married to live together. So we searched. I lived in Brooklyn for 12 years before I moved up here, and he was on the Upper West Side. So we were looking for places in Brooklyn, and somehow we're both musicians. Him going to gigs, he kind of ran into Cold Spring accidentally, and so we started having one-day getaways and coming up for the weekend. And when we looked for a place, we didn't see anything that had any space. We said, well, let's try Cold Spring and see, because it felt kind of good. So here we are. So
now that you've been here for a while, what do you like best about this? What would you say is the best aspect of this community as a place to live?
Well, there are a couple of aspects that I really like. Physically, of course. To me, it's drop dead gorgeous. It's right here on the Hudson. What I also enjoy is that there's a lot of artists around here. There are a lot of writers, there are a lot of musicians, there are a lot of visual artists. And so I seem to have attracted those like-minded people around me. So it feels like a very positive way that I've been embraced by the community.
You've played locally a fair amount, right?
Right.
Right. What is your musical training? What's your instrument or instruments, and what sort of formal training did you have?
Well, my primary instrument is violin. I was formally trained, I'll start from the end, the University of Michigan School of Music. So I went there for undergrad and grad, and then Detroit Public Schools was...
Is that a good music program?
Yeah, well, any music program is good now, so I look back and say, wow, strings program right in the Midwest urban area of Detroit, elementary, junior high, high school. My high school, first year of high school, it happened to be a fine arts magnet school. It turned into a fine arts magnet school, so there are a lot of artists that your radio guy plays that actually went to my high school and are from Detroit. Yeah, so I was pretty lucky.
You haven't been in this community all that long, so I can't really ask you what you miss from the past here because you haven't been here that long. But what about other communities you've lived in? Is there anything here that you miss that you would bring, that you could magically transport to Cold Spring that you've experienced in other communities that you think we could benefit from?
I would just probably say what's already beginning to happen, which is diversity. Diversity of different cultures, and it is beginning to have that mix, and I've even seen a difference even in 7 years.
Wow.
So, living in New York, you get spoiled.
Right,
like
true,
that.
true.
Yeah.
What about, it sort of ties in with this next question, I guess. Have you been here long enough to formulate an opinion about the future of this community, where you see it's headed, what you see in your crystal ball for it?
I see it continuing to become diverse. I definitely see the artistic side of the community expanding in great ways. I mean, I personally have been attracted to be accepted to be on the board at the chapel, the venue that's right on the river, and we've been expanding the music series. And I just heard about a new spot that's opening like one block up, the living room on Main Street, and this woman is a dancer, and she's going to have classes and music there, and improvised music and experimental music. So I see the community expanding like that. Politically, from what I've seen, let me see, I know that when I first moved here, there was the mayor that had been in office for I don't know how many years. You probably know how many years, but I knew that he had been around for quite a while. And so then I saw that transition take place from an older, more seasoned politician to a younger mayor that maybe had some different political views. And so I'm seeing it expand in that way too.
So where do you perform mostly, or is it all over the place? But where do you perform?
I would say more so these days in the city and traveling. and all over the place.
And locally, where have you played? I know have you played at the chapel in the past? I know you've played at Jeff's at the Foundry with some of the jamming there.
Yeah, I played at the Foundry. I played at the chapel. I played at the Howland Center. Let's see. I played in areas north of here, Kingston, Woodstock, those kinds of areas. Yeah.
Now, I'm willing to bet that you may be the only person in Cold Spring and Philipstown that has played at a presidential inaugural.
Right.
What was that like?
That was great. I was planning on going anyway because it was such a historical moment. And then I thought to myself, wow, what if I could actually like work and get myself involved there so I could perform. So some friends of mine called me that had contracted me and asked me to play other television events, and so they asked me to play. So
what sort of event was it that you played at?
I played at the neighborhood ball, and that was where the president and the first lady did the first dance.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a neighborhood ball. It was televised on ABC, and it was a bunch of artists that played there, and so I had opportunity to meet and talk with Stevie Wonder. I was performing with Shakira, who is a Colombian Latin singer,
right.
Dancer, and I had a chance to meet a whole bunch of great people, and it was a good experience because it wasn't like just a regular gig. Everybody was there for something bigger than themselves.
Right.
So it was.
Did you get to see the president?
None of us really got to see the president. We had to all go to the farthest stage and look at the president and the first lady do the first dance. So I did get very far away little pictures. Security was pretty tight, as you can imagine.
I'm sure. What was it like emotionally to do that gig?
It was really it was draining. I mean, in a good way, but I mean, everybody was just wiped out because it was just emotionally such a uplifting and enlightening thing. You know how it can be positive, but it can just drain you in the same way.
Mm.
So everybody was just overwhelmed with emotion and happiness and exhaustion all at the same time. So,
how was the music?
Watching Stevie Wonder perform and Mary J. Blige and Beyonce and Maroon 5, and it was just, I mean, sound check was enough just to see everybody do the sound check, so.
And were you happy with your performance?
I was pretty happy with my performance. I mean, that's the first time I worked with Shakira, and we really didn't get a chance to rehearse.
Yeah.
Because just the nature of how it was, so it would have been nice to really kind of lock in with her and have a moment to rehearse, but overall, I think that I did a good job.
Well, it's a great experience.
Great experience.
Yeah. Getting back to the diversity question, the fact that Cold Spring and Philipstown is becoming more diverse, has that presented a challenge for you at all personally moving here?
I mean, I like diversity. I mean, I grew up in a not diverse environment because I grew up in Detroit, and it was. I mean, my schooling from elementary through high school was, I would say, 99.9% African American.
Right.
So when I moved to New York, I was really craving the idea of getting to know different people and different cultures.
Right.
So that craving kept in place until I came here. So yeah, sometimes I miss it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what's on your musical calendar this summer? What are some of the highlights?
I am producing some nice musical events that are coming up at the chapel. There's a young artist showcase. There is my string camp that I am going to be leading for the second year.
Is that at the chapel?
That's at the chapel. It's going to run for a week, and it's for beginner to advanced string players.
How young are those kids, or old, or in between?
Oh, I got them as young as 5 and 6 years old, all the way to high school.
Wow.
Yeah. So there will be a week, July 11th through the 15th of this summer, that we just do strings and focus on using traditional skills and techniques to develop improvisation and composition, which is my love.
Cool.
Yeah.
Should get you involved with that summer sunset series sometime down at the gazebo, on Sunday nights during the summer.
Yeah.
They have different groups that have a real eclectic mix of types of music.
I think I have played there a couple of times. A couple of times.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some great stuff coming. I'm going to be performing with my group in Atlanta at the Georgia Aquarium. They have a music series there, and So I don't know. Other stuff is in the bag, in the mix. So we'll keep my fingers crossed for upcoming.
Sounds good. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for coming in to talk to us.
Thank you. Thanks so
My
much
pleasure.
for having me.